his aunt, unfortunately, just died 2 weeks ago. And, listen, don't tell me that the cabal is not going to make mistakes, whether it's deliberate or intentional, it doesn't matter. The mistake is there. We have a documentation, which always beats what? Conversation, and we have it in spades. There's what, $190 billion discrepancy, minus $190 billion in her bank account. What in the world is going on?
I got a phone call from Daryl, and Daryl said, Scott, this just happened to my aunt, like Mel was talking about with this documentation.
Just logged in today, like any other day, looking for information on some transaction that took place, and opens the screen and negative $199 billion in her checking and saving. And I think if you got that screenshot up there, you'll see, that's it. It's actually even dated in the top left corner there too.
This is not a run-of-the-mill bank that nobody knows in Hokey Skokey, North Carolina or Virginia or something like that, right?
No, sir.
Wow. So what do you think it is? I mean, let me play it to you. What do you think it is? I mean, explain it to what you are extrapolating from the document, if you don't mind. But before we get started, folks, make sure you hit the pause button. Okay, go down below. There's a Rumble link. Go over to Rumble and follow us over there. QFS1776.com is without question the holy grail of what's to come. Okay, t-shirts, you got to get yourself decorated. This way people will ask you, what is XRP? What is the quantum financial system? What is this? What is that? And you send them where? To QFS1776.com, where they need to immerse themselves, because we're going to burn down this system down to the ground. And out of the ashes will rise the phoenix. There'll be nothing to go back to. Believe me when I tell you that. Unified TV will take over Netflix. We're bringing in the next genre of movie producers and storytellers and actors and actresses. And we're telling the story of how the world is going to be on earth as it is in heaven. GESARA and NESARA is coming. Don't make no mistake about it. Gold and silver right down below. Promo code Mel Carmine. Make sure you use the promo code. Almost $8 billion in sales. We're direct to like a bunch of mints. We are the ones that can get you the gold and silver directly to your door, okay, at the cheapest price. Don't even waste your time looking for a cheaper price. It doesn't exist. Also, our Telegram groups down below. If you want to learn what's coming and you're sort of a little scared, I understand. Believe me, I was there too at one point. Our Patriots are literally waiting for you in the room. And if you need more than $10,000 worth of XRP or $1 million worth of XRP, you come see me. Send me an email at QFS1776@gmail, and we'll get you as much as you want.
Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're at. Today, we are so glad you joined us. My name is Scott Steele, and we want to welcome you to the XRP QFS team channel. Sitting in for Mel Carmine once again. Wait, no, could it be? Could he be back? Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct pleasure, and I want to thank Mel and Amber. We have him safely back behind the blue chair. Make some noise in the comments. Welcome him back, Mr. Mel Carmine.
Brother, how are you? Can you guys
Good. The blue chair's back.
Man, it was one hell of a trip. There was no vacation, with the exception of us just being laid over in Vegas, missing our flight. And in Mexico City. So we ended up taking a tour of Mexico City. But man, listen, guys, hold
on, Mel. Before we get started, okay, because I'll introduce our guest in just a minute. But tell us, because I unfortunately wasn't able to make Vegas. By the way, Mel and I actually were able to meet up in Florida and spent a few days together, which was crazy and fun. We had a great interview with a couple different people. But tell everybody, you went to the XRP convention. You asked one of the most outrageous questions. I mean, everyone's talking about it. But besides your moment, Mel, tell us about the convention as a whole and the energy, the atmosphere. Just to tell our viewers a little bit about that.
Sure, absolutely. Well, the energy was electric, because when you see something live versus recorded, you're probably not getting better information than when these guys are doing a podcast. But I'll tell you what, if I had to give any kudos to anybody, it would have to be to John Deaton, even though he's part of a lawsuit that he doesn't understand the world we live in, the GESARA, NESARA, Kabuki Theater lawsuit. I do have his number. I will be contacting him, and I will put him on the spot and ask him some very questions, very respectfully. But it was electric. I mean, he stole the show because he's very good with understanding the Kabuki Theater, the landscape. He understands the judges. He understands, but he doesn't know that everything's being delayed purposely. So I want to see if I can get that light bulb to sort of go off with John Deaton. But go ahead.
And folks, just so you know, we're recording this show. Today's date is May 17th, and information that just dropped today that the judge has unsealed the Hinman documents. So that will, we will see how this turns out. Does this mean that, the SEC folds because they don't want this out? We'll soon find out.
Yeah, I don't know. The only thing I could tell you guys is this, that, there are anomalies in the world that we live in. And instead of making fun of us and calling us conspiracy theorists, we are conspiracy analysts. We analyze the breadcrumbs, and then we have a high probability, high plausible that what we're talking about is absolutely spot on. And just by playing a little piece here by yours truly, what's his name? The guy that, what's his name, doesn't like too much, David Straight. It will collaborate this gentleman, Daryl's story. His aunt, unfortunately, just died 2 weeks ago. And, listen, don't tell me that the cabal is not going to make mistakes, whether it's deliberate or intentional, it doesn't matter. The mistake is there. We have a documentation, which always beats what? Conversation, and we have it in spades. There's what, $190 billion discrepancy, minus $190 billion in her bank account. What in the world is going on? I know you had an interview with, what's his name, Barlow. Okay.
Yes.
Barlow. And what tell us a little bit, set the stage for that before I hit the play button on David Straight.
Sure. So just so everybody knows, Daryl was, and you guys have heard if you've been watching the channel, I was in a car accident in an Uber, and a drunk driver hit me. I ended up with a severe TBI, which is a traumatic brain injury. Daryl and I have shared many lives together. And interestingly enough, have lived down the street, known each other for 20 years. He listened to me on the radio in Los Angeles. And 3 months ago, he was my hyperbaric oxygen tech and helped us heal this brain injury. So I'm very grateful to Daryl. But Daryl was, watching the show and knew of Mel, and then we became fast friends. And so today I got a phone call from Daryl, and Daryl said, Scott, this just happened to my aunt, like Mel was talking about with this documentation. And I'll put it on the screen, Daryl, if you want to share the story, if you would, please.
Sure. Thanks for the intro, Scott. Yeah, my name's Daryl. Scott and I have shared lots of memories with hyperbarics and lots of stories. So yeah, like Mel, you mentioned a couple weeks ago, my aunt passed away, or my great aunt passed away, and my father manages our funds for the last couple of years. Just logged in today, like any other day, looking for information on some transaction that took place, and opens the screen and negative $199 billion in her checking and saving. And I think if you got that screenshot up there, you'll see, yeah, that's it. It's actually even dated in the top left corner there too. So he's actually actively right now, here it is 5:20 Florida time, East Coast time. He's at the bank right now on the West Coast, and I'm waiting for some phone calls and some text messages with more information. The bank does not know that she's dead, though. He has not notified them. So we do find this rather odd.
Yeah, what bank is this?
That is Chase.
Chase, this is not a run-of-the-mill bank that nobody knows in Hokey Skokey, North Carolina or Virginia or something like that, right?
No, sir.
Wow. So what do you think it is? I mean, let me play it to you. What do you think it is? I mean, explain it to what you are extrapolating from the document, if you don't mind.
Sure. My initial thought had something to do with our sovereign bonds or something to do with trusts. That was my initial thought. And I had another thought about them possibly offloading debt onto people who passed away. All speculation, of course. At this point, we really don't know a whole lot. I'm sure the bank's going to come up with some excuse, but whether that's factual or not. You know, who knows?
That was what I was. That's where my head went from the Ben Barlow interview. Mel, is that, you know, I know we've talked on the show about the bail in, and I was asking our other special guest, we'll get to in just a minute, but I'm wondering if could this be a part of the bank taking a deceased person, maybe they did find out somehow that she was deceased, and they're looking at this as $199 billion debt to collect to take off their balance sheet that they were owed. I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just again speculating like we all are, but something's not adding up right here.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm going.
It could be a glitch. It absolutely could just be a glitch. Could it be a hacker? It could be a hacker. You know, Daryl shared another picture with me that showed, I mean, an ATM, a month ago, and a $5 transaction fee just the other day. So the account's active and live. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's a good way to answer it, is with I don't know, but we're trying to find out. We are definitely breadcrumb analyzers by all means. How you doing, Hollywood? We actually met that dog down in Florida. What a fun dog. Let me tell you.
Yes,
Let me go ahead and share my screen if you guys don't mind. And we're going to play Mr. David Straight here for 1 second.
This is your vessel. This is you. Okay. This is your labor. This is your worth. I got 5 college degrees. Every time I got an advanced degree in college, I got a new CUSIP number. So in the military, I got a new CUSIP number. All these CUSIP numbers are attached to my main birth number. Okay. This isn't a bad spot. Anyway, let's stop here. It's a balance sheet, right? It's balanced. It's got $1 million on one side, $1 million on the other. This gets invested. It keeps growing and growing and growing. And let's just say it grows to $100 million. And by the way, that figure's low. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. I've seen individuals worth 35 billion or more that didn't know they had a dime. Okay, it keeps growing and growing and growing. Our first 18 years of life, we're not spending anything. So nothing is going over here, our first 18 years. That's growing and growing and growing for 18 years, and it's being hypothecated and traded. They've done a good job of managing it. They really have. First 18 years, it's growing and growing and growing. You're not spending anything. You're not adding anything to the debit side. Then you go get a job and you get married and you go out and you buy a house. I'm just going to use numbers. And the numbers themselves don't matter. It's the concept, okay? You buy a car or two. You buy some utilities or two over your lifetime, some medical bills, some food, whatever. They keep track of it all through your tax returns, your credit card, your bank statements. Banking is all tied into the IMF, the Federal Reserve. We got a big buildings of the bean counters called the Department of Fiscal Services, and those accountants just keep track of everything. Everybody's life. And this all starts to add up on the debit side. And this just keeps growing and growing and growing on the investment side. At some point in time, you die and it goes through probate. They take some of this, and let's just say over your lifetime you spent, I'm going to round it off to $10 million. So they subtract 10 million out of your investment and they pay off all this and it becomes a zero balance. They even pay back the initial loan to the International Monetary Fund plus interest. That was a loan from a foreign entity, by the way, to the Public Charitable Trust. And they pay it back. The balance is zero. Now this has, let's just say for this discussion, has $90 million left in it. What happens to it? The Sesta Trust lives on in perpetuity forever. Everyone who has ever died since 1933 is currently funding government. This money gets reinvested. They can't take this, but the balance must stay the same forever. But if it keeps earning, they just sweep it off the top and it funds government. It's called off-book funds. In the States, it's GSA, and in the federal government is CQV. And it continues to fund government. Why do you think they don't care if they spend $3 trillion on foreign entities? It came out of your trusts. It's not part of taxes.
Anyway, needless to say, that is pretty much what happened to your aunt, except it's in reverse. Somebody somewhere screwed up. It could have been maybe 19 billion instead of 190 billion dollars that was owed to her because they were trading her, you know, her stock, so to speak. When you come out of your mother's womb, they fingerprint your feet and they start to trade you immediately. That's why it's called a parent. They're renting to you. They're renting you to your parents. Okay, wording has a lot to do with what we teach here. It's very, very important you guys understand that. So what do you guys make of what you just saw Mr. David Straight explain?
That's exactly what when I saw this, that's exactly where I went with this. And I thought that was one of those two scenarios. The first one, the bank, as far as a bail-in, taking it off its debt sheet, or balance sheet rather. And the other one, it being part of the trust. And so that's all. But I'd like to bring in Mel, if it's okay with you, our other special guest that we have today, and get his take on it as well.
Absolutely.
And ladies and gentlemen, he's from the U.S. and just from his logo, you can see it. Make him feel welcome. This is Patriot Underground. You can check him out at his Rumble channel is rumble.com/Patriot Underground. And you can always buy him a coffee at Patriot UG. So, and thank you very much, Patriot, for being with us.
All right. Well, thank you guys. That's really nice to be here. Nice to see you again, Mel. It's nice to meet you, Daryl and Scott. Very strange situation, I have to say. I mean, you know, when you first, we first started talking about it off the air, and my first reaction was, huh? What? You know, like I was just sort of scratching my head here. But I have to tell you, I have Chase Bank. I have an account with Chase Bank as well. So the minute you showed me that screenshot, I knew it was legit. Whether or not it's a glitch or, you know, somebody, like Mel said, maybe somebody screwed up, maybe somebody, you know, hit the wrong button or something along those lines. I don't know. I mean, I have to be honest with you. I mean, I genuinely do not know. One thing I can tell you is that I do believe that regardless of what the banks, and this is something that I mentioned a little bit earlier in our pre-recording session there, I don't think that there's anything that they can do. The big banks, you know, especially the Wall Street banks, despite the optics and all this talk about raising the debt ceiling. And, you know, I think really we're kind of reaching a point now where the default on the debt is coming. And it doesn't seem to me like it's going to be that much longer. Now, I was talking the other day at Jim Willey, and, you know, he's been talking for a long time about the treasury bonds. And, you know, I don't know if you guys know about Operation Sandman.
Yep.
Or you've heard about that, you know, the concept where basically all these nations are going to simultaneously dump the treasury bonds. And, you know, at that point, the Fed's it's on its knees. I mean, there's really nothing that can be done. They're being squeezed really from every single side. And there's really not much they can do. I mean, their typical tricks, I don't think are going to work anymore. They might be able to, I mean, usually the drama goes like this, you know, there's this big fighting over the debt ceiling and, you know, this big back and forth and all these negotiations, you know, Mel said, you know, kabuki theater, you know, it's kind of like that, you know, but in the end, really all it does is put a Band-Aid on a shotgun wound. And, you know, the problem is they're bleeding out from other directions as well. I mean, there really isn't much they can do. You had Powell come out and talk about raising the interest rates. But what's that going to do? And that's going to completely, you know, stagnate the economy. People aren't going to go out and make purchases. People aren't going to buy cars. I mean, the mortgage industry is already just completely crippled. So it looks to me like even if they do raise the debt ceiling, they've got some serious issues. There's the BRICS alliance, that's pretty much running the table at this point. They're 85 to 90% of the world's GDP. And, what's really going on. And then, of course, we also have to talk about, or at least mention as a part of the conversation, is that, the money laundering has been largely brought to an end. I mean, certainly it's not worldwide, but in the Ukraine.
But let me ask you a question, point blank, Patriot Underground, specifically for you. Because I know we're winning 900 trillion to nothing. We know that the White Hats are in control. There's no question about that. Is it possible that they put this breadcrumb out there just so that we can put it out into the general public and get people to start thinking? Is that a possibility?
I absolutely think that's a possibility. Hey, we're talking about it now. And, like I was saying to Scott and Daryl, I mean, that's obviously, the problem that I have with the theory about them trying to offload debt is that it's just so blatantly obvious. And it could sort of dovetail with what you're saying, Mel. Maybe they're doing it to be overtly obvious, to get people's eyeballs to bulge out of their head and say, what the hell's going on here? And to have these types of conversations and then ultimately tie in all these different elements to it. But to actually think because that they're going to get away with this, because what always happens when somebody is deceased, their loved ones go in and they try to settle their finances. They go in, they look at all their accounts, and obviously that's not a it's not a $5 discrepancy here or there. I mean, that's a number, that's a figure that gets everybody's attention. I mean, you're going to see that, and the first thing you're going to say is, what the hell is this? What's going on here? Like, and then begin to investigate it. So I'm not going to really speculate on what it could be. I mean, I think all you guys made really excellent points. I'd be very curious to see what the bank has to say. What their spin on it is. I mean, they're probably going to tell you it's a glitch or something along those lines. And to be honest with you guys, I mean, I'm not really sure what to think or what conclusions to make. I think I'd have to maybe do a little bit more research here, a little bit more information. But as far as the question you had, Mel, is it potentially a deliberate quote unquote mistake? Yeah, I think we've seen a lot of those. And, these are the stories that are getting out there. So it's very possible that, I'd be curious there, because I haven't heard, this is the first time I've heard of a situation like this. I've heard about debt forgiveness stories. I've heard of, people's loans just suddenly disappearing. I haven't corroborated that information, I have to admit, but I've heard a lot of these stories. And, certainly, I think that there's a lot of anomalies that are going on in the banking system right now. That's for sure. And this is just yet another one. But what it could actually mean in terms of them trying to write off debt, or whether it's somehow indicative of a Susta QV trust figure there that's popping up, I don't know. I mean, I really I'd have to do a little bit more pondering on that one, a little bit more research. But I'd be curious to hear, Daryl, what information you get from the bank.
Yeah, we'll be my dad's real tight with the money, so he's going to be wanting answers real soon. So.
Make sure he's not 199 billion in debt.
Yeah, he told me this afternoon. He says, "Well, you know what? I'm going to go down to the bank and try to write a check for $1 million to your brother and see what happens." So,
but anyway, needless to say, I think this all is deliberate. Obviously, nothing is going to go where they're going to turn on 5,000 spigots all at once, where we're going to have NESARA, GESARA happen like that. But I do think that these are breadcrumbs until 45 does get back, until the 17th movement wins, until the military wins, etc., to get people programmed slowly but surely with very little consequences, very little casualties. But I will tell you this, and I think you'll agree with me, Scott. I think that if I'm right, and I believe I am, the XRP story that ties in right into NESARA, GESARA, XRP being the bus that drives NESARA, GESARA, the one that could be scaled to 3.5 trillion transactions per second. If, or when, I should say, when the GESARA and NESARA story starts to manifest, and let's say between now and next year's XRP convention, it happens so that GESARA and NESARA is a mainstream story, well, then I got to tell Brad Kimes he better rent out the Giants Stadium. Am I right or am I wrong?
Come on in.
Come on in. And who's going to be the stars of that show? I wonder. Maybe could it be the guys that follow the guy with the big chair? I think we might have something to do with it, guys. whole
We might have to bring
docu.
the big chair there.
What's that?
We might have to bring that big chair to the stadium.
I will. I swear to God, I'll fly it in. You know what? I like that.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to switch back to the Patriot if I could, Mel. And you brought up a good point in the banks not being able to last much longer. I just did an interview while Mel was out with Colin, and he seems to think that this is a June into June scenario. How do you feel, or do you know any intel? Or, I mean, we're all speculating, of course, but what have you heard? How long do you think that this kabuki theater can last?
Well, Janet Yellen came out and said that they're going to run out of money basically by June 1st. The Congressional Budget Office came out and slightly contradicted her and said, no, it might be June 15th. But then she came out and basically doubled down on it. Now, whether they're using that, I think they are, in a sense, as a bargaining chip, so to speak, similar way that they did back in 2008. If you don't bail us out, then they're going to be tanks on the streets by Monday and, all this sort of thing. But she's put that out there. And like I was suggesting, I mean, the debt ceiling could be raised again, or maybe they could hike up interest rates, because really what it comes down to is the treasury bond. Because, you buy a treasury bond, in essence, what you're doing is you're loaning the government money. And, so the banks buy them and, nation states buy them. And meanwhile, they're running this Ponzi scheme that's dependent, like I said, on money laundering. It's dependent on all this illicit revenue. And I'll just leave it at that, because Mel said we want to be YouTube friendly. But you guys know what I'm talking about. And, as a part of the kinetic aspect of this war in Ukraine, they've gone in there and they've basically shut that down. They're still battling. And I don't want to get too much into geopolitics. I'll stay focused on your question. But they're still battling in Bakhmut, which is really the central hub of their underground network there. And that money laundering network is absolutely vital to keeping this banking system propped up. And of course, also the cartels' participation in the money laundering system. And from what I have heard, essentially, is that the South American cartels are jumping ship. They pulled their money out of Silicon Valley. That was a big part of the reason of the collapse there. And they're starting to move their operations back to Cuba. And this is causing major problems with their revenue stream, because all of that dark money, in essence, was propping up this Fiat Ponzi scheme. And so, then you've got Executive Order 13818, which basically allows them to seize assets as well. And so what does the Fed do? They can print money. They sure as heck have done that, right? Print more fiat dollars to cover their obligations. But what does that do? We've seen it just skyrockets inflation. And that enables, pretty much erodes the purchasing power of the bond, of the future of the bond. So basically, then you've got nation states, you've got investors, you've got banks wanting to dump the treasury bonds. And that's really what it all comes back to. So they play all these types of games with the debt ceiling, to kick the can down the road. They mess around with the interest rates to try to make bonds, more or less attractive depending on what they want to do. But the problem is that, you've got Powell out there saying, well, we're just going to go ahead and hike up interest rates. That's going to completely cripple the economy, an economy that's already in really rough shape. So the auto industry, people aren't going to go out and buy cars. And from what I understand, that's their number one form of tax revenue, income, sales tax. So people don't want to do that. They, all of a sudden borrowing money, spending money is no longer attractive. Sure, it makes the treasury bond more attractive, but it also stagnates the economy. So you got that problem. And then, there's the overall question of what are the other countries of the world, what are they going to do? Because they're holding a massive amount of treasury bonds as well. And so even if they do go ahead and they say, all right, we're going to kick the can yet again, we're going to attempt to, raise the debt ceiling, we're going to go through the same cycle. There's a theory out there that the nations of the world, Project Sandman, you guys have heard about it, that they're just going to say, that's it, we're done with the treasury bond, and they're going to dump them overnight, and that's game over. And so that's the kind of where I see us right now. I mean, there's all types of different anomalies going on in the system. That's kind of what we let off with tonight. I think there's Mel's suggestion there that the white hats are really trying to tip off the people in the know that, things are really heating up now. We're really getting close. But as far as, a time frame, it's a tough question. It really is. I try to steer clear of time frames because, people will hold you to it. So all I can tell you is, in terms of a time frame, is that I don't personally see us getting anywhere close to the next election cycle before this all falls apart. Because one way or another, they're running out of money. And sure, they could try their CBDC nonsense. They could, they're probably going to try to pull all types of rabbits out of a hat, but every single one is going to fail because the white hats are really holding all the cards.
Well, respect to you, my friend, for not putting dates on stuff. We are in a war. This is my favorite little mascot. Thanks to Gina and my friend over there, Gina and her husband over in Oregon, Darren, that got me this gift. This is an amazing gift. I mean, my IQ is huge. Did you hear that?
No, we can't hear
I couldn't hear it.
For every punch that he throws out, he's got a saying, "Make America Great Again." My IQ is huge. I got to sell this on the website. You got to help me find this, Scott.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, little disclosure: Mel is entertained very easily.
I'm a little kid at heart. By the way,
Yeah.
you're starting to see me lose some weight and my face is getting thinner. There's a reason for that. I'm on the Purium product. I'm very serious about it. My body, I just realized my body is no longer a garbage can. I'm not going to throw everything in it and think that everything's going to be fine. I got to treat my body like a temple. That's exactly. And I'm on this plan for life. And there's going to be photos before and after. There's going to be Photoshop. You guys can come down to Melbourne. I'll be there probably in 3-4 weeks again. And you guys can see me in person. You'll see a drastic difference. But let's get back on track. I love what you do, Patriot Underground. What do you think is happening in Iraq? Because I think out of all the nations, Iraq seems to be the most vocal.
Are you talking about in terms of the RV? Are we talking about?
We're talking about the dinar revaluating.
Yeah, I think that Iraq is a major aspect of this. I mean, I do believe that there's a big story that goes all the way back to the invasion of Iraq. There's lots of different angles there, but I've heard that that's kind of where a lot of the floating of, I mean, because I think what a lot of folks don't understand, and I'll be honest, I'm not an expert in this specific area. I'm very much a student, so I have to just kind of put that out there. I'm not an expert in any of this, but I do believe that there's a lot of negotiation that's going on behind the scenes, and that has a lot to do. See, I mean, people are wondering how long things are going to take to, actually unfold. And I think that, there have been different parts along the way of the journey where I've been focused on one aspect of the war or another. Well, yeah, we need to, get a critical mass of people to wake up, or we need, to give the white hats more time to, continue these underground battles and so forth. I think all of those things are true, but I've been more and more persuaded that it really does boil down to this behind the scenes sort of negotiations that are happening to set certain agreements and to put certain agreements in place for the RV. And I do believe that that is in large part what we're waiting on. And also, I would say connected to that is what we were just talking about, is how long can the Fed actually sustain itself? I mean, it's on its last legs at this point. So I think they're doing both of those things in the background. Now, specifically to Iraq and the dinar, I mean, that's not really an area that I'm very well versed in. So I'm not going to pretend that I have that information. I will say that my overall view on the RV is that I don't necessarily see it as being a one-to-one, straight across the board. I think it really has much more to do with purchasing power. And, because, I think, Mel, you and I talked about this before, inflation and what it really means is just the devaluation of the currency. And I think that that's what's going on behind the scenes is there's also the aspect of tying all of this currency to actual gold, silver, and commodities, depending upon the nation state we're talking about. Because I've been, hearing that if a country is really, rich in certain minerals, their currency is going to be in part backed by that. So I do think that that's kind of what's going on behind the scenes, but I'm going to defer in terms of the specifics on the dinar because that's really not an area that I know too much about.
So, Patriot, let me ask you. I appreciate your honesty on that. But do you see all of the currencies revaluing together at the same time?
Yeah, I think that's what's happening. I think there's a lot of snags along the way. I think there are multiple different things going on in the background, but I think that at any moment, the white hats could trigger the EBS at this point. Like Mel said, I do believe that they are in control. And I do believe that ultimately most of what we're watching, is a pantomime. It's like we're watching scenes play out in a movie. In many cases of things that have already happened, to bring the public up to speed and get, like we were talking about with the banking, very slowly drip out information and get to prep people's consciousness rather for what's coming. Yeah, I mean, I do think that there's there are aspects to this that we could talk about in terms of the kinetic. We could talk about the spiritual aspect of the war, but I think the real driver is what's going on in the background with the RV.
How long do you see the EAS, EBS, the lockdown lasting?
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to answer the other aspect of your question. You were talking about the simultaneous revaluation. Yes. So yeah, that was my answer. I do think that once the EBS, and this ties into what you were just asking me, this is the way that I understand it, is that what's going on in the background is that the QFS is mirroring everything that's going on in the Fiat system. And I think you guys, your audience is very well versed in this, so I won't, go into too much detail. But my understanding is that the mirroring process started a long time ago. It's been ongoing. And the real turning point, the trigger for the mirroring to stop is going to be the EBS. So when we get to that point, that's when the mirroring stops and the QFS is just switched on. And I think that we're talking about a period of, I don't think that some folks are saying that it's going to go on for weeks and weeks, when we finally get to that point. I don't think so. I think we're probably looking at 10 days of darkness. I do think we're probably looking at a period of time where society pretty much comes to a screeching halt. I also think that there are going to be so many different aspects to this. I think there's going to be a massive scare event that's going to be potentially a nuclear standoff type of a situation. That's going to be at the same time as, the banking system comes crashing down. And that's really what I think the main trigger is going to be. Like I said, when that system finally implodes and the treasury bonds get dumped and the Fed is just finally out of ammo, I think that's the point. And I was talking about this on a recent podcast, because really, when you think about it, when you go to war, the main tactic is to not just destroy the enemy on the battlefield, but to stop their ability to wage war. You go after, that's why they, hit their main industrial sectors. They, it's not, there are multiple different tactics, but ultimately what you want to do is you want the enemy to be in a position where they can't fight on. They no longer have the ability. And the cabal's entire system, and we talked about, the money laundering, the trafficking, and all these other things, but it's entirely based upon bribery. It's entirely based upon dark money, illicit money. And what's the brilliance of this plan is that in the background, the white hats have been cutting off all those different sources. And what we're witnessing is the Fed and, the Rothschilds, the City of London, the system, Fiat banking, the private Western central bank, is we're witnessing their death throes right now. I mean, I think that they know that they're defeated. And ultimately, they're going to try to cause as much chaos as possible on the way out. They're going to do as much damage as they possibly can on the way out. But I think that we're probably going to be, I'm persuaded that it's going to probably be about a 10-day period where there are going to be multiple things going on. I think there's going to be broadcast. Obviously, you're going to have the emergency broadcast. I think you're going to have disclosure videos. I think people are going to be absolutely stunned And yes, it's going to bring the world to a pause for a period of time, but I also don't think that it can go on for too long, because that could have the opposite effect and end up really crippling society. And I tell my audience this all the time: the people that are in the know, all of us that know what's coming, I don't even think we have an idea of the role that we're going to play, the massive role that it's going to be sprung on all of us, because the same people that are, calling us conspiracy theorists, and, who still think that it's Biden on TV and still think that Trump's trying to overthrow the government and all these other things. I mean, they're going to be
a shocker.
What's going on? Right.
Desperately clinging to you for information, and you're going to be in a position. So yes, I think that, sorry, I'm kind of giving you a long-winded answer. I tend to be that way, but
they're going to have to
I think it's going to be
they're gonna have to join my Telegram group down below, because I don't have enough time to answer the phone now and answer questions. So when that time comes, guys, the Telegram group is right down below. It's open to the public. Join, and there's a lot of people in there, tens of thousands, that have information that you need, and you need to join now.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And if you need to keep your spiritual self right and your head right, please go to tformnetwork.com on Telegram, because we've got meditations over there, help you keep your head right, connected to spirit, connected to God, keep you praying and meditating, and that's what you need to do so you have the intuition to make the right decisions.
Yeah, no question. So NESARA, GESARA, in your opinion, obviously, I know you're a big fan. I know you follow it pretty closely. It's all intertwined with what we're talking about here. It's not like, this is kabuki theater. This is not kabuki theater. This is the real theater. And at some point, what we already know to be true, because we've seen the anomalies of people getting debt forgiveness. I got a gentleman, or I don't know if it's a couple, 162,000 debt forgiveness. I just sent them a message. I'm about to send them another message on Telegram. Whoever you are, if you're out there, you sent me the documentation. I want to put you on the show. I saw the documentation. It's very compelling. I want to get this out to the world. This way they stop questioning whether it's real or not. $162,000 debt forgiveness doesn't just get forgiven out of thin air, correct?
Is that for me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, I think that certainly that's no, it doesn't just happen out of thin air. And yes, you're absolutely right. I'm a huge fan of NESARA, GESARA. It is a topic, I think, that, I mean, there's so much information out there, and I think that a lot of it, I'm probably on the same page with you guys, and that there may be some areas where we differ a little bit, but ultimately, I think we're at a point where people are starting to really get educated about what's coming. And it's really exciting to see how many people out there are beginning to see these anomalies and beginning to ask these types of questions and beginning to question. I mean, look, they can't hide the fact that the banking system is collapsing. And I don't think they're trying to hide it. I don't think they're really trying. They're not really doing all that much to infuse confidence into the system. And I think that's in part because the white hats are really pulling the strings behind the scenes. I think they want these types of conversations to happen. I think they want people to start losing confidence in the system, or at bare minimum, asking pertinent questions and seeking out information that they're not getting on the mainstream media. But even the mainstream media is starting to tell the truth in certain cases. So, it's very exciting. But yeah, because they can't really. There's different theories about that. I was going to say they can't hide it anymore, but I also think in some situations they've been made an offer they can't refuse.
Bingo! Now you're talking my language. I'm Sicilian. Now let me tell you something. I'm sort of like the wild card. I'm like the Joker in the deck of cards. Okay, so when I went there and nobody's touching GESARA, NESARA, forgiveness of debt, none of that stuff. It's strictly XRP, mainstream media, talking points, right on point. They would not deviate. I had to go up and ask the question. And I went up and I said, my name is Mel Carmine. I own a website called QFS1776.com. The cool guy from the digital asset investor, nice plug. I should have said, thank you. I know, but I didn't. But anyway, needless to say, I said, because they kept calling it crypto.
Wait, hang on. Hey, Mel, let me set the stage. Let me set the stage for people.
Sure.
So there's about 500, 600, 700 people in the room.
Correct.
And on stage, you have the head of Polygon or PolySign. You have the heads of Link2. You have Uphold on stage. And they decide to do, and Brad, the head of digital asset and they decide to do a question and answer. And so who is David
Digital
from
Perspectives is the guy who held the show. Digital Asset Investor, I gave him a shout out because I said digital asset investors got the right idea. That's what they should be called, digital asset investing, not cryptocurrency. I said what cryptocurrency, the cabal wants us to call it crypto because that's what they want. They want us in the crypt. And so I don't want to go there, and you guys shouldn't want to go there either. And the CEO of PolySign was shaking his head. No, we're not going there. No, we're not going there. And all of a sudden it was like quiet. And they said, next question. Okay. And the crowd literally, you could have doused them with gasoline and light them on fire. You would have got a lesser reaction from what happened. The crowd, that follows the XRP Army 1.0, I could tell you, kudos to you guys. You guys are awake because the reaction spoke loud in the words. Jim Valley from Val Hill Capital said it also in a short interview that we just released on, I believe, my channel 2 on YouTube. He said, yeah, the audience knows. You know what I mean? And yes, I'm going to come on your show as soon as it gets closer, meaning GESARA and NESARA. Folks, this is real. This is real.
Patriot, let me ask you, do you think people, as far as the debt forgiveness and like you said, what are people going to have to do if they're new to the channel, if they're new to finding out about NESARA, GESARA? What do they have to do to engage in that? Is everybody going to get it, or who's going to get it first? How all do you kind of foresee that playing out?
Well, I do think that everybody is going to get debt forgiveness. I think some of the narratives that are floating around about NESARA and GESARA, I have a difficult time with, but I think that debt forgiveness is not one of them. Debt forgiveness, I think, is something that is probably going to be a one-time deal, like a one-off sort of a situation. Let me just say this about the QFS. I think that the purpose behind NESARA and GESARA isn't necessarily to make everybody out there, a multimillionaire. I think that the purpose is to basically take the financial system, and to reset it on a solid foundation.
Yeah.
And ultimately teach people how to live within their means, but also, take all the chains off of them. We're talking about there's the financial aspect, but there's also all of these suppressed patents that are going to be released, all of this new technology, free energy. And, free energy, of course, has a direct economic impact. 70% of what we spend our money on, right, is energy related. So you take that away, you give people debt forgiveness, you take away their car payment, their mortgage in a one-off situation, you get rid of the income tax, and you basically just massively take that dollar. I mean, so this is why I don't think everyone has to be a millionaire, because the dollar, that their purchasing power is going to just be incredible compared to what it is now. And that's the way I view the quantum financial system operating. As far as the actual rollout and how it's going to work, that I couldn't tell you. I mean, there's a lot of discussion about redemption centers and things along those lines, and that's where I get into some, area of disagreement. And, I'm not going to emphasize that. I like to find common ground. We can certainly debate it a little, but I think it's going to be all linked to your, everything's being tracked. Everything's being mirrored on the quantum financial system. I think that all they really have to do is just flip a switch and your debt's gone.
Yeah.
So in terms of the order, the pecking order, I don't know. I would assume probably folks who are older are going to get or perhaps those who are in the most dire need of relief, depending on their situation. I think they probably have that all mapped out and figured out. They got AI and algorithms that are just insane at this point. So I think it could be done within a nanosecond. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, but wouldn't that disrupt I heard somebody say just today or yesterday, I forget exactly when and who, but I did hear somebody say specifically that if they roll it out too fast, they're going to disrupt the economy because nobody's going to want to go to work. How do you answer that, Patriot?
Well, see, that's part of the reason that I have an issue with this notion that we're going to get these massive reparation payments that are going to make everybody multimillionaires overnight. I think that, you know, I'm not a millionaire, I'm far from it, but I've certainly heard stories about, you know, people who have come into money, and it takes a time, it takes a period of adjustment to even get used, you know, to have that kind of money. And so what happens if everybody becomes a millionaire overnight, or let's just say within a matter of weeks, right? Everybody goes to a redemption center and comes out wealthy. I mean, there's multiple different angles to this, but, you know, one of my questions would be, well, where's the incentive to continue to work? Who's going to continue to want to have a job? Who's going to cook the hamburgers? Who's going to run the restaurants? Who's going to run the airports? I mean, who's going to fly the planes? You know, people say, well, in order to participate and to get your money, you have to agree, you know, you have to sign these non-disclosure agreements. You have to agree to continue working. I find that a bit far-fetched. I think that, you know, most people, you bring them into a redemption center and they walk out, you know, $20 million richer. They're not going to keep quiet about it. Number one,
I love you for saying that. I love you for saying that, because that was exactly my conversation I had with somebody that I'm not even going to mention, because I don't want people to say, oh, Mel, you're just tooting your own horn. I'm not going to, we're talking high ranking, you know, whatever that word that starts with an M. Okay. And I said to her, it's not a he, it's a her. And I said to her, you know, if everybody becomes wealthy like that, the guy that's making, you know, $15 an hour flipping hamburgers, he's not going to go to work.
Right.
If he's worth $10
so that's
million,
just one aspect.
He's got zero in the bank account. He's in debt. All of a sudden, he goes from 0 to 10 million or 100 million. He's not going to go to work. I know I sure as hell want to take 2 or 3 months off. I think I deserve it. I might do a couple of podcasts, but I might get some sand on the camera, if you know what I mean.
Right. Well, then, you know, then there's also the question of, okay, if we all have millions and millions of dollars, what does that do to the purchasing power? And what is that? Essentially, in order to have society continue to run, you'd have to have almost like a communistic, you know, price setting. You'd have to have, you know, a totally insane system in order to even get that to work. Because, you know, I mean, if we all have $100 million, then what difference does having $100 million make?
Yeah, but even if you sign the non-disclosure that's an inch thick, okay, and you sign your life away, someone somewhere is going to have too many martinis and is going to get excited and is going to tell somebody before the 90-day period expires. Period.
Someone? I mean, we're talking about millions of people. I mean, come on. You know, I mean, you know, that's what I'm saying. And then the consequence would be what? You're kicked out. You've lost, all of a sudden, you've just lost all of it.
Yeah.
Well, and then people would lose their mind and probably start going crazy and killing people because they just lost $40 million. You know, I mean,
in the big scheme of things, so I think Mel and I actually we're talking about it in Florida, running the numbers. But I think that there's on the planet, there's only 20 million, 40 million people that are involved in the RV type of in that. Didn't we come up with that, Mel?
Yeah.
So there's still going to be people that need to work.
Yeah, it's not the whole planet is going to be re-evaluated. It's only the people that are in the know that are properly positioned. So let's say for argument's sake, just to round it off, let's say it's 100 million even. 100 million people are about
out of 9 billion.
Yeah, are fabulously wealthy, from anywhere from 10 million to 10 billion or beyond. Okay, you still got 7.8 billion people, because the planet's got 7.9 billion. You still got 7.8 billion people that still need to go flip those hamburgers, because the guys with their revaluation checks need to eat.
So how did we come up with that number? I'm just curious. How did we get to
we don't
that
know.
number
We're
of people
speculating as to how many people are actually invested in the RV, the revaluation. Is it 10 million? Is it 100 million? Is it 50 million? Nobody knows.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So
you're talking more about, you know, people are going to cash in on basically
on the RV
that they've made,
right?
On the RV.
If there's only 100, let's say there's 100 million. Let's be generous. Let's say there's 100 million smart people in the world, and they're all invested in dinars, dongs, dims, all that stuff, right? And the lowest guy down at the bottom of the totem pole, when they reevaluate all this stuff, and as we go through this massive wealth transfer, is worth 10 million. And the guy or gal who really invested a lot, who's been in it for years, that believes that eventually it's going to happen. And some people have been in it for 25 years, and you know that, Patriot, okay? And they believe that that day is coming, and I believe that day is close too. When that day happens, and you got 100 million multi-gazillionaire people, you still got 7.8 billion people on planet Earth that are not part of that system, that need to still go get a job, that need to still work. So I don't think it's going to be as disruptive as many people think it's going to be.
And then if I can chime in real quick.
Sure.
Part of my understanding too, or at least my plan, at least, if what you guys are saying comes to pass, I mean, this is a massive blessing that we're going to be getting. And
absolutely.
I don't know. I can only speak for myself. When I first got into the RV a couple of years back, I was a very different person than I am today. I mean, I was thinking about Lamborghinis and lifted trucks and $1 million homes and all this, fancy fame. I was going to, go to different parts of the world I'd never seen before. And I probably will do that part. But this is a massive blessing if this does come to pass. And I plan to help out a lot of people, not by giving money, but, indirectly, someone's, they lost their car, they need food. Well, it's our job to help with that,
And I'm glad you chimed
so there's
in,
that aspect
Daryl.
of it.
Yeah, I'm glad you chimed in, because if they delay in giving us our flying discs that can go from Miami to Manila in 8.2 minutes or 17 minutes, if you want to take the scenic route, okay, you'd be almost crazy not to want to have. For me, for example, I'm definitely going to have, I don't know, Shelby Cobra 65. There's one company that makes it out of metal, only one. It starts at 100. I'd be crazy. I wouldn't be. There's still plenty of money to help humanity, but hell, I've been held back for so long. You don't think I'm going to indulge a little bit? Really? Come on.
Right.
And Daryl, I'm glad you said that, because I know we had that conversation, and Mel and I had this conversation too, that as initially as we got started with the RV, you dream of the private jets and the houses and the cars and all that. My and I'm not trying to make this all about me, but a lot of people on our team have shifted their outlook to be like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to do that humanitarian project. I can't wait to do that. And you know what? I think, I know we all have gainfully employed, but I know there's some people that are hurting out there, but I'm not just anxious about having the millions of dollars. I'm ready for the next step. Let's get on with it.
Yeah, you know what? I'm glad you went there, Scotty. You know why? Because you don't even have to have a humanitarian project. But let's say, for example, I'm worth gazillions of dollars when this thing all hits, and we will be, okay? And I like his humanitarian projects. I just copy and paste his humanitarian projects, put it as part of my project, say, I'm going to be part of Scotty's humanitarian project. That thing tickles me fancy. I want to do that one. And there's verification, and there's Scotty's telephone number if you want to verify. Yeah, Mel Carmine is definitely part of my humanitarian project. End of story. You don't even have to hurt yourself. You don't even have to, you could just attach to someone else's humanitarian projects. Where are you on that, Patriot? I'm sure you know about that.
Well, I mean, I was approaching, when I was talking about the redemption centers and that angle, my understanding of that was that basically everybody was going to partake, and that would be the opportunity for all of these reparations to be made to everyone, right? So everyone who's ever been, we've all been victimized by the system. So I was more looking at it. So, when I was posing the question about, well, if you've got literally everybody on the planet, or even just, let's say, everybody in the United States, right? And, we've all been robbed blind, and
absolutely,
as you put it, held back. Absolutely. So we've all been victimized. So I was looking at it more from that angle. Now, certainly I have no problem with people being wealthy. I mean, by any means, I have no issue with that. And if there's a, if there's a way to make that work where you have this, like you described, people who got in early and have invested in the RV and them making money on XRP and, whatever else they're invested in. Hey, I say that's beautiful,
The meek shall inherit the earth, and the money is
I think that's great.
Yeah. The money is being transferred to the people who have their heads screwed on straight and want to do the right thing. But yes, they are allowed to indulge. We've been held back for so long. And when I say indulge, that doesn't mean go smoke, 2 kilos of marijuana and drink, 7,000 martinis. I'm talking about indulging in things that you want. You see yourself living in a certain way in a certain house. I personally like ultra contemporary. My favorite guy that I watch on YouTube, I'm going to give him a plug, even though he doesn't need my help. Peter J. Ancona down in Miami, the best designers in the world as far as interior design. That's what tickles my fancy. That's how I'm going to live. Okay. And so you're allowed to indulge, but you also have to make sure that you got your priorities straight and make sure that we're here for humanity, because humanity has been held back for way, way too long. And this shit has got to stop, period.
Hey, Mel, if you have 5 martinis and 1 kilo of marijuana, can you have like half of it?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just kidding. I along with what you're saying, and Daryl and I have had this conversation too. If and Patriot, I want to ask you this: if as the Earth is ascending and shifting, we have different timelines that we're shifting on. Do you see? I mean, part of humanity having this horrible experience, and us who are rising to the top, as Mel says all the time. A new heaven and a new earth. Do you see us ascending to that and us not having those struggles?
Well, I do think that I think that there was a timeline shift. Now, I have trouble with the idea that, we're going to be on one timeline and everyone's going to be on another timeline. I do believe that this is a scenario where all of us are going to go through this major traumatic cathartic experience that's going to completely shake the world. Now, in terms of the scientific angle where you can start talking about actual other timelines, I'm not saying that those don't exist, but I'm talking about from our perception of reality. I think that all of us are going to be experiencing the same trauma as we go through this ascension experience. But as far as the actual ascension of humanity, I think it's always been an inevitability. And I think the cabal, from what I understand, they were pretty successful in delaying it, that we were on schedule to ascend back in the 60s, right around the time they killed who, right?
Yep.
And that was really what launched this modern iteration of the 17 operation, right? So I think that there's, we've been, all our lives, we've been living through a war, and we didn't really even understand it. A war that was declared, I think, officially when that great president was taken out. And I think that one that's been waged covertly, very covertly behind the scenes for decades. And that we're living through the final phases where it's this geopolitical realignment and economic realignment on every single level, but on a spiritual level and on a plane of ascension. I mean, this is something that we're all going to experience together. That's the way that I view it. There are others out there. I mean, I've interviewed, Carrie Cassidy and Gene Decode, and I mean, they can tell you all about different timelines and different dimensions and things along those lines. And I'm very much a student as far as that goes. And I do believe that we are ascending to the 5th dimension. That's my understanding, is that we're going, we're already, some would say we're already there. I mean, I think that my view on it is when we actually see all of the things that we've been talking about and preparing for happen for years, I think that's going to be the moment when it's going to really be the beginning of a new era. And that's the way that I view our ascension. When humanity raises its consciousness to a level where we've unified to a certain degree. We're always going to have our differences, but we've unified in the sense that we've agreed that we have a common enemy, and we see that enemy be brought to justice for everything that they've done. That is going to be the real trigger for our ascension, because that's the point where the boot's going to finally be taken off our neck. Like Carrie Cassidy and Gene Decode, I had them on together. We were talking about ascension and the metaphor of the ball that's being held down at the bottom of the pool. It's basically, you know, what humanity, you know, we're in the deep end, and
Right.
we're that ball, and somebody's just had their hand just, you know, pinning us to the bottom, holding us back. And what's going to happen when that hand is finally removed
Yeah,
is
well,
that
that's going to
we're
be
going
the
to ascend.
pivotal.
We're going to go all the way out of the pool.
Right.
And
That's going to be
I
the
think
pivotal
that's
point.
absolutely.
Yeah, and it's gonna be the pivotal point of no return, the beginning of the beginning, because you guys all seen the video of the guy scratching his neck, Joey Bag of Donuts down there, that's supposed to be in charge of Washington, D.C. Okay, you saw that, and you're in the film industry for many years, Scott. Please correct me if I'm wrong. You'd have to have millions of dollars worth of equipment to be able to make that up. True or false?
That was pretty evident that there was a mask.
Someone's wearing a mask. Bingo.
Yeah. Hey, Patriot, while we're on the subject, what could you advise our listeners and viewers to, and maybe use a, you know, share with people, if you would, your spiritual practice, and what do you use to ground, ascend, meditate? Are there some practices that you use that might benefit some of our viewers?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I'm a Christian, but I always tell folks that, you know, as far as I'm concerned right now, I mean, like I said before, we're all going to have our differences. We weren't created to be the same. We were I mean, certainly the divisions have been artificially engineered by the cabal, but we were created differently for a reason. So we're not going to see eye to eye on every single thing, and especially on spiritual matters. But as far as I'm concerned, we've got bigger fish to fry in terms of, you know, unifying. I mean, the good
Collectively,
people,
yes.
this is a battle of good versus evil. It has nothing to do with, you know, what your persuasion is on, or
Your
how
religion.
you have a relationship with God. I mean, that's a personal thing. But as far as my spiritual practice, I mean, I have daily prayer for sure. And I know that when I get away from that, I always feel it. It's not always obvious to me at first. It's usually 10 other things in my mind that, you know, I have to adjust before my spiritual practice. It's it's the way that this matrix is created. Everything is designed to keep us away from God. Everything is designed to keep us, fixated on the five senses and, you know, our ego and everything else. So it's very easy to lose sight of that. But I know when I'm off kilter, that means that I'm not praying. It's like any other relationship, you know, you get out of it what you put into it. And, the more time that I spend in communication with God, the better. In terms of grounding, I mean, you mentioned, I think, the simple practice of going outside and standing for 10, 15 minutes,
feet on the ground,
barefoot on the ground. It's been scientifically proven what it does to the body. Yep. I mean, it pretty much, it slows down your heart rate, your blood pressure. It stimulates electrons all throughout the body. It's absolutely incredible. There was a short video one of my listeners posted in the chat page of my Telegram, and I thought it was so great. It was only like 50 seconds long, but it just lays it all out there, and it's just truly incredible. I mean, you wouldn't believe it. I mean, a lot of people out there, you know, they're like, "What are you talking about? Stand outside with my bare feet?" But I'm telling you, folks, try it.
Try it.
21 days. It's truly incredible. Yeah.
I have a grounding blanket that was given to me as a gift from Ross and his beautiful wife. It's king size. I sleep on a grounding blanket, and I'm telling you, I'm having some of the best sleep of my life. It's absolutely awesome. I don't have a link for that. You're not going to be able to buy it from me. I don't sell grounding blankets, as otherwise I'd have to sell everything, you know. But I do have a grounding blanket. If you guys want to get a grounding blanket, you should go and get one as quickly as possible. It's got silver. It's got silver woven into it. Okay, another use for silver, gold and silver down below. Miles Franklin, promo code Mel Carmine. If you want to lose some weight, I'm starting to look good again, and I'm going to do it this time. And a big congratulations to Rebel Ellie out there. Rebel is taking the 90-day challenge with me. We're going to look dapper because we're going to the convention. By the way, you're invited to come, Scott. We're going to the convention over in Los Angeles for the Purium products. If you want a great product that is all live enzymes and great for your body and makes you think straight, okay, it makes you look good, put the links right down below. If you want to do it as a business opportunity, you could do that, but I'm not gonna arm wrestle you, believe me. All right, keep that positive cash flow coming in. So you're invited, Scotty.
Speaking of grounding, I wear grounding shoes every day. There's a company out there called Harmony 783, and they got shoes and slippers, and ever since I
Yes.
started wearing those, they're
With
great.
magnets.
Yeah, it's just a little thing that it grounds, and it sits right underneath the bottom of the foot, and there's silver
Yes.
lined in there, and yeah, it's good. I've been
Well,
using
you
it for
know,
a couple
when
months.
you got the cabal that owns 98.99% of all these companies out there, and they're selling us products, and because they don't like us too much and they want to see us in the crypt, hence the term crypto, okay? They want to see us in the crypt. We have to figure out what we could do to defend ourselves against this stuff. So if it means you got to buy a $5,000 mattress that's got some magnets in it and buy a blanket that you plug in so you ground and take the right proper nutrition, you got to do what you got to do, or use the right kind of toothpaste. Stop using Colgate toothpaste and Crest tooth. It's designed to kill you.
It's got fluoride.
Yeah. And people don't understand this.
Fluoride shuts down your pineal gland.
That's right.
So, yeah.
Hence why you need my glutathione product.
Yes. And I've been swishing with that too. And that's an awesome product as well. Give yourself a plug there, Scotty. Absolutely.
Yeah. And Daryl's tried it as well. But it's Numi. And they have developed, and Patriot will make sure you get you a bottle to try. It's a new technology from Numi. Stephen K. Scott created it. And it has a nanotech delivery of glutathione, and glutathione is the body's master antioxidant, and it cleans out your pineal gland. And when I tell you, after Daryl, tell them what your experience after about 12 days.
Sure, yeah. So for me, I had it's got the spray that you got, and then it's got the swish, and
Yep.
for me, it cleared up my face right away. I've had pretty healthy skin. I use coconut oil all over my body every day, right after a shower. But every once in a while, I get some pimples in there, and you can see the blackheads coming in. And I started using that, and it cleared up my face pretty good. I started using the swish. My wife told me my breath started smelling better, so that's like a big plus for you guys out there. So yeah, felt like my energy levels came back a little bit. I'm always trying something new, so it is hard for me sometimes to pinpoint exactly what things are. But for that one, it was pretty obvious for me.
My sleep talc, it amazingly held my TBI and the clarity, and that was a big thing. Mel, I know you've only been back and trying the product for a little while now, but just by swishing twice a day, your pineal gland really clears out, and you just really get this amazing clarity and intuition, which is what we need right now, folks. And we need, most importantly, and I think you can hear all of our hearts, we need you guys to pay attention. We're not trying to push anything here on you. We're trying to just share some information. Go out and do your own research. We're not trying to sell you. We're trying to help you. And by the way, I'm new to this. I'm learning as I go along. I'm less than a year involved in this. So, I appreciate all the information. And Patriot, you have again blown my mind with the information that you've provided. Any last thoughts you want to share with us, Patriot, and you'd like to communicate with our audience?
Well, along those same lines, I mean, I think it really, the big takeaway should be that ultimately this is about all of us coming together. And I mean, look, I say this a lot. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, especially, nobody would get together and have these types of conversations.
No.
Humanity really wasn't paying attention. Everybody was still glued to the TV. We were all still trapped in the matrix. And it's so beautiful to see that everybody's breaking out of that. And a part of that process is learning how to take care of yourself. It's learning that ultimately it's your responsibility to eat better, to get more sleep. And that's something I really struggle with, I have to say, especially with 2 young kids. But, doing the very best I can to educate myself. And, there are lots of different solutions. I mean, even for folks out there who can't afford to, purchase certain products and so forth. I mean, there are a lot of natural things that you can do. Like I said, you can just walk outside and take your shoes off. And I'll tell you, I mean, I had
Drink
an experience.
more water.
Yeah, drink more water. I mean, I had an experience where I wasn't feeling well recently. And, I thought, what the heck? I'll just go out and stand outside for a few minutes. I'm telling you, 15 minutes, I just stood out there and, I didn't have my phone on me or anything like that. I just took a minute, to just separate myself and to just stand there. And I came back in and I felt almost entirely better. I was all congested and everything. I came back inside. I had to not to be gross, but I, cleared out my sinuses. It was incredible.
Yeah.
And, go ahead.
If you put your ass on the root system of a tree and just sit there for 5 minutes, you will charge your body.
Or if you hang out with horses, it's great
Yes.
for autistic kids. I understand. See, there's so many things out there. The only thing we're doing, folks, is we're educating ourselves. What kind of chemicals are the cabal putting in in these products that they want to kill us? Find out what chemicals are good, natural stuff, and switch our money this way to this way. And we make a living while doing it and saving your ass, because when we talk to you, it's like we're talking to a broken radio. You guys don't understand what freaking planet you're on. Am I right? Or
That's why you got to raise your
building
vibration and fix your frequency.
Yes.
It's about building that parallel economy as well. If we don't want to continue to fund, and we've been talking about the economic angle, like I knew we would be for a good part of the show. And this is an ongoing war. And ultimately, all of our money gets funneled directly to the enemy unless we develop a parallel economy and support one another to the degree that we can. And that's really what it's all about. It's about all of us coming together. So I'll just leave it at that. And thank you for having me. It was a great conversation.
Thank you for coming to the show, Patriot.
Yeah.
I know we sort of threw you for a loop. It was supposed to be just me, you, but then all of a sudden we had breaking news with Daryl, and he called me. He said, "Hey, you got to park the car." So I parked the car, and he shared the document with me, and that's how Daryl came onto the show. But I appreciate you coming on. I know this will be one of many shows that you will come on. Appreciate all your knowledge and what you do in the RV space. Thank you so much, sir, and God bless you.
Hey, and I want to remind
bless you. Thank you.
And I want to remind everybody, a lot of the information that Patriot has, you're not able to see on YouTube, but you can find him at rumble.com/Patriot Underground. And he's got several links there with tons of information. We highly want to recommend that you guys follow him.
Yes. We're going to hit the pause button here,
you.
guys. We're going to, all the Patriots links will be down below. We're going to cross-pollinate, cross-promote. I like Scott likes to call it. We're going to send them our links. He's going to put them underneath, and that's how we grow. It's not about me. It's about sharing.
Collectively sharing. Yes.
Yes. Healthy ecosystems. And we got to get behind this guy. See? Okay? That's how we do it. Okay? We're going to hit the pause button and hold you guys behind. Thank you for all coming, and we'll do it again. Thank you.
All the best and blessings, friends.
Thank you. God bless everybody.